Once upon a time, in a kingdom shimmering with gold and jewels, lived a princess named Ilara. Her life was a tapestry woven with the finest silks and brightest threads. She had everything a heart could desire: gowns that sparkled like the night sky, feasts that could feed an army, and a palace so grand its towers seemed to touch the clouds. Yet, amidst all this splendor, Princess Ilara felt a strange emptiness, a whisper in her soul that told her something was missing. Her days were spent in gilded halls, but her dreams were filled with vast, uncharted lands and ancient mysteries. One evening, while poring over old scrolls in the royal library, she found a faded map. It spoke of a place lost to time, the sunken kingdom of Eredor, a civilization once renowned for its wisdom and courage, now believed to be nothing but a myth. A spark ignited in Ilara's heart. This was it. This was the adventure her soul craved. She knew she couldn't stay in her comfortable castle any longer. Her purpose, she felt, lay beyond its safe walls. The very next morning, Princess Ilara made a decision that would change her life forever. She went to her father, the king, and announced her intention to find the lost kingdom of Eredor. The king, worried for his only daughter, tried to dissuade her. He offered her more jewels, more power, anything to keep her home. But Ilara's spirit was resolute. She gathered the 5 bravest warriors of her kingdom, men and women known for their unmatched skill and unwavering loyalty. And by her side stood her most trusted companion, Pegaso, a magnificent unicorn with a coat as white as fresh snow and a horn that glowed with a gentle, silver light. He was not just her friend. He was her confidant, a creature of pure magic who understood the language of her heart. Their journey began at the crack of dawn. They left the glittering capital behind and ventured into the wild, untamed world. The path was far from easy. They crossed the whispering woods, where the trees seemed to share ancient secrets, their leaves rustling with eerie voices. Ilara, with Pegaso lighting the way, led her warriors through the dense, dark forest, her courage never faltering. They navigated the treacherous Serpent River, its currents strong enough to pull a ship under, its waters home to mysterious creatures. The warriors, guided by Ilara's clever strategy, built rafts and skillfully maneuvered through the dangerous waters. Their travels then took them to the Crystal Mountains, a range of peaks so tall and sharp they looked like shards of glass piercing the sky. The air grew thin and cold, and the winds howled like mournful spirits. Blizzards raged, threatening to bury them in snow. Many times the warriors felt their hope dwindle, their strength failing them, but Princess Ilara was their beacon. She shared her rations, tended to their wounds, and with every step, her resolve grew stronger. She was no longer just a princess. She was a leader, her spirit forged in the fires of adversity. Pegaso, ever loyal, would find sheltered caves for them to rest, and use his magical horn to create a warm, protective light against the biting cold. After months of relentless travel, they finally descended from the mountains and found themselves at the edge of a vast, desolate valley. A thick gray mist hung in the air, clinging to everything like a shroud of sorrow. And there, in the heart of the valley, lay the ruins of what could only be the sunken kingdom of Eredor. The grand city described in the scrolls was gone. In its place stood crumbling towers, broken walls, and streets choked with weeds. The glorious fountains were dry, and the once beautiful gardens were now patches of dust and thorns. A profound sadness hung over the entire place. As they walked through the ruined streets, they saw a few figures huddled in the shadows. They were the last descendants of Eredor, their faces etched with hardship and their eyes holding a deep, lingering despair. Their ancestors had been wise and powerful, but a great catastrophe centuries ago had shattered their kingdom, and the lingering curse had drained the land of its vitality. The people were weak, hungry, and had forgotten the pride and knowledge of their past. They lived in the shadow of their former glory, with no hope for the future. Seeing their suffering, Ilara's heart ached. This was not the glorious discovery she had imagined. But in that moment of sorrow, she found something far more important. She looked at the weary faces of the children, the tired eyes of the elders, and she knew her journey had not ended. It had just begun. The emptiness she had felt in her palace was gone, replaced by an overwhelming sense of purpose. This was what she was meant for. Not to find a lost treasure, but to restore a lost hope. She turned to her warriors and said, "We will not leave. We will stay and help these people." Her warriors, who had followed her through countless dangers, saw the fire in her eyes and nodded in agreement. They had not just followed a princess, they had followed a true queen. Elara rolled up the sleeves of her simple travel clothes and got to work. She organized her warriors to clear the rubble and repair the broken homes. She used her knowledge of agriculture, learned from dusty books in her library, to find a way to grow crops in the barren soil. Pegaso, with his magical horn, touched the dry earth, and to everyone's amazement, small green shoots began to sprout. He found a hidden spring deep within the mountains, and soon, clean, fresh water flowed through the ancient aqueducts once more, bringing life back to the city. Elara spent her days with the people of Eredor. She listened to their stories, learned their forgotten traditions, and helped them rediscover the skills of their ancestors. She set up a school for the children, teaching them to read, write, and, most importantly, to dream again. She didn't rule from a throne. She led by example, working alongside them, her hands calloused, her face smudged with dirt, but her smile brighter than any jewel she had ever worn. The people of Eredor, who had only known despair, began to see a flicker of light. They started to believe in themselves and in their future. They started to call her not Princess Elara, but Elara the Hopebringer. Slowly, miraculously, Eredor began to heal. The fields became green, the houses were rebuilt, and the laughter of children echoed through the streets for the first time in centuries. The kingdom wasn't as grand as it once was, but it was filled with something far more valuable: community, resilience, and love. One day, a messenger from her home kingdom arrived, carrying a letter from her father. He had been worried sick and pleaded with her to return. Elara read the letter, and for a moment she missed the comfort of her old life. But then she looked around at the thriving community she had helped build, at the smiling faces that greeted her every day, and she knew where she belonged. She wrote back to her father, explaining that she had found her true kingdom not on a map, but in the hearts of the people she served. She had left her palace in search of an adventure and had found her destiny. She was no longer just a princess waiting for her life to happen. She was a queen who had built her own kingdom, a kingdom of kindness and courage. Princess Elara had found her purpose, not in a crown of gold, but in the simple, profound act of helping others. And in the reborn kingdom of Eredor, under the watchful eyes of the stars, her legend was just beginning. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this story, please like, share, and subscribe for more tales of adventure and courage. Until next time.